Welcome back to another episode of Pretend I Don't Know Anything. Shouldn't be that hard. Again, with Dr. Brooke Keels. The preceding episodes, we've talked about signs, symptoms for loved ones in general. And in every one, we keep talking about you're not alone in this. There is help out there. Yeah. So maybe it's time now we start talking about how we start to address these things and what kind of help is out there, you know? I know you well, and so I know you're a big advocate of just transparent communication, right?
Yeah.
So if you were telling a parent right now and they came to you, Brooke, and they said, I'm concerned that my son has a drug problem, my daughter has a drug problem, or my husband or wife, whatever. My loved one has a drug problem. What do I do? How do I begin, right? What would you tell them?
I would ask them, have you asked the person?
That's
like, if you talked to them about it, yet I think often like when we operate out of fear, we do not make good choices. And so I'm also like, thank you for coming and talking to me about it. Like, thank you for reaching out to say, what should I do next? But I think some people would be surprised how many times someone's like, how do I know? And I'm like, have you talked to them about it? And they're like, no. They've just kind of been watching this fire burn. And I think the fear has grown in them. And maybe they've like tried in their own way to check in and the interactions have not been great. And, we have a lot of fear as loved ones that the person we love will be mad at us or upset with us or, whatever that looks like. And that's just the reality of it, whether we should or shouldn't. That's the deal. And so I think starting there and really, I want to coach them on, like, really identify what is your actual relationship with them at this point. Like, if it's been super volatile, we'll obviously take it one direction. But if it hasn't, it's like, what if we just open the door for them and then prep for, and if they share with you, like, either I don't want to talk about it and, okay, you don't have to talk about it with me, but would you be willing to talk about it with someone? Because I can see that you are at some level hurting or struggling and having a difficult time. And it's okay if I'm not the one that fixes it for you, which, just so you know, for me as a parent, are the words I hate more than anything.
Yeah, because I want to be able to fix everything.
Yeah. And then, you go and get degrees in this stuff and you think you're supposed to, I'm literally an expert at this. Fun fact, it doesn't matter when it's your own kid.
Yeah.
So I tell people that all the time. They're like, one mom was like, I bet you're just like the best parent. I'm like, I'm not great. Like, like I need a lot of help too, because our identity can get so tied into the people we love, our kids especially, but our spouses even, and, our siblings or whatever. And so it's really like assessing there, but can you open the door so that you are available when and if they do want to talk, or that you can be a resource? And a lot of times people will say, I guess I could go to a therapist, whatever. Okay, is that something you would like me to help you with, or is this something you feel like you can handle on your own, depending on whatever level they are? Like, allow them to have some ownership in the conversation, that you're just not dragging them to this place. And even if later you maybe kind of have to drag them, metaphorically, not physically, at least you've given them an opportunity to take ownership of it and that they don't feel bullied into something. Because again, if you have depression, anxiety, or just overwhelming shame, you cannot imagine not feeling that way.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is just open up a little window that goes, what if you didn't have to feel this way though? Like, what if you maybe didn't have to struggle with whatever you're struggling with? And like, one of my favorite things to say is like, could we just maybe consider this? You don't have to do it, but can we at least think about it? You don't have to answer me now. And a lot of times people will. Just
planting the seed.
Yeah.
Just planting a seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, again, from my own history, there were some pretty big moments in my life where the one person that bailed me out or saved me, whether it was one time bailing me out, another time it was by holding a line, and it was my dad. And I needed $70 to pay the rest of my rent. I was in Boston. I was renting a room in this house, and I was working, and I called my dad and I asked for $70, and he said he's in the hill country in Texas, and he said, well, son, are you working? I said, yeah. He asked how much I was making. I told him. He asked how much my rent was. I told him. And he said, well, if you weren't spending your money on whatever you're spending on, you have money for rent. And I'm not sending you a dime. And he didn't. And I lost that apartment. And it started, which ended up still being a fairly long process for me, but it started the end for me.
Right.
Right. And I was so furious at him for so long.
Right.
I'm like over $70. Like that was really, that had nothing to do with it,
Right.
But in my mind, that's how
Right.
I justified my rage. And I barely communicated with him for 2 years, around that, only to come to the point where I realized that was real love, that he had to face all of his fears in that moment.
Yeah.
I'm 1,800 miles away. He doesn't know what's going to happen to me, where I'm going to end up. But he also knew that if he kept doing what he was doing, I was going to die like that.
Right.
And as a parent now, I can't even imagine how terrifying that was for him. But I am so grateful that he did it.
Yeah.
And he held that line. And now when I look at the friendships in my life and the people that love me, I think the way I know that they love me is they're willing to tell me the things I don't want to hear, regardless about how I feel about it.
Yes.
Like, because they care about me.
Right.
They're willing to say those things.
Yep.
And then I know they actually care about me.
Right.
And I think we get lost in that as parents.
Yes.
It's very easy to get lost. That if I tell my child that I don't agree with what they're doing, or that I'm concerned about it, or I try to push through an argument, or if I do these things, that they're going to be angry at me, they're not going to think I love them.
Right.
And maybe at that time, right? But eventually they would come to see that you're doing it because you love them. And just avoiding the conflict or the argument or tiptoeing around them so that they're not angry at you. I know you're doing it out of love, but it's harmful.
Right.
It's harmful.
Yeah.
I think all of us, no matter what age you are or where you are in your life, need accountability like that. We can't be surrounded by yes men.
Yeah.
People have to tell us.
We say this here often. I know with you and John, and when we're making decisions, I have to tell it to my son and sometimes even my husband, right? And they sometimes have to say it back to me, but I have to do what's right no matter how you feel about it.
Yeah.
I have to. And, my child, if I am, no matter how old my child is, if I am chasing his emotions or living and dying by his emotions, we are both in a very unsafe place. And so, yes. And it's kind of some of I have these little phrases, but honestly, it's because I think we deal with so much in this work and in this world that it kind of holds me, it anchors me a little bit with some of that. And it's able to kind of peel through what is actually the right thing, no matter what anybody feels about it, what's right, and figuring that out. And then you can actually move on it and find out what support do you need. And also, guess what? You can be really sad that your kid got their feelings hurt or is upset with you, and you can do all of that and still do the right thing, right? It's not that we're cold to it. We can grieve that they are grieving, or, whatever it is, or that our loved one is, or that they're upset that they had to go to treatment or whatever. But you're right. For your dad to do that, and like you said, start it, because it would have just pushed it off how much longer? How much longer? You know what I mean? You have no idea how much longer. And I know, because you got sober. How old were you? Remind me.
29.
29.
It had been pushed off.
That feels super young, now.
Yeah.
To me, because I would love to be 29.
Yeah, that would be
so great.
If I could be 29, but where I am now.
Right. All of this, but 29.
29. Oh,
killing it
Yeah.
in the whole world. But like for you, it's like, can you imagine it being like, now that you know what you have and what happened and how you've been blessed through this and with your family and just all these incredible things that have happened, as hard and you've worked so hard for all of it. Like if that had been 4 or 5 years longer, like the moments missed. And so and or what if that had happened 5 years earlier?
Yeah.
And so it's just really important that we have the support around us to help someone else get help.
Yeah.
You literally cannot figure this out on your own.
No, absolutely.
And when the parents come to us and go, "Hey guys, we have no idea what we're doing," I'm like, well, then this is going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because we do, and we will, you lean on us and let's do this together.
Yeah.
Because it's so, so important to have that.
So, okay. So that's great. So if you start with the conversation and say you plant the seed and then later they kind of pick it up, right? And say, okay, I would want to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
Or say they don't. And it's like, all right, I'm going to have to just go ahead and carry the baton here and set the appointment.
Right.
Right. But where do you begin in that? Like, what help do you seek out initially? So we're at the beginning stages of this. We don't know the actual severity of it, right? We just know that there's problems.
Right.
Right. So where do we want to begin in this journey?
This could be so much longer than a 15-minute episode.
We may not have time to jump in.
We may, but I'll say this, and maybe we do something separately, right? But I think number one, put the effort into finding a good counselor. There are so many that are not good, but when you find a good one, that can be life-changing. And also, and I feel like that can be a whole separate thing of like how to find a good counselor, but I think it is worth the effort. We often don't take the time to do that, and you just kind of like you assume everybody's great. They're not. And that just is what it is. Just like not every physician is great or, whatever. And so I think you do that, you find somebody, and then you allow that process to happen, right? Assuming everything's not burning to the ground and we're not in a dangerous situation. So just, and seek the advice. Like, what are you seeing or you notice? Are they getting healthier? Are things getting better? Pay attention to it and also just remain in conversation with them. Like, you don't have to tell me what you guys are talking about, but I'd love to hear like what insight you feel like you're gaining on yourself, and if they come and tell you like, I had a great therapy session and I realized how you were not great as a parent, which sometimes happen. Probably the therapist didn't say that.
Yes.
Let's just go ahead.
Yeah.
And start there. So just assume they didn't. But if you can swallow that and be like, tell me what you've noticed, it is a journey.
That's a big ask. That would be a big,
no, I mean, I would like hear it and then go run down the street and scream out into the, probably, or call somebody and be like, let me tell you,
I think I'd be
what
talking
this
to the
child
therapist.
just said to me. And do, maybe you do that too, but often, I think you will see fruits from that effort if it is a good fit and if it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Brooke.
Sure.
And thanks for joining us on another episode of Pretend I Don't Know Anything.